At 2:14 in the morning, my son's breathing machine started screaming. Not beeping, screaming, a sharp, continuous alarm that cut through the dark house while the power was out. The air conditioner was dead, and the bedroom temperature was climbing in the middle of an Arizona heat warning. I ran barefoot down the hallway and found Caleb sitting upright in bed, pale, sweating, pulling at the mask on his face while the backup battery on his ventilator flashed red. Low power, low power, low power. The whole neighborhood was black, no porch lights, no street lights, no hum from air conditioners. Just that alarm and my son trying not to panic while the machine that helped him breathe counted down the last minutes of battery life. I had a backup generator for this exact reason, a medical backup generator, installed on a concrete pad behind my garage, approved in writing by the HOA 6 months earlier, inspected by an electrician, registered with the County Emergency Preparedness Program, labeled with a red tag that said, "Medical Power Backup, do not disconnect." But when I ran outside with a flashlight, the generator was gone, not off, not unplugged, gone. The pad was empty, the transfer cable was hanging loose, the safety chain had been cut, fresh tire marks crossed the gravel behind my garage. And on my back door, taped inside a plastic HOA notice sleeve, was a violation letter dated the day before. Unauthorized noise-producing equipment removed by order of the Architectural Compliance Committee. Removed. They had taken the generator during a blackout, while my son depended on it. By 2:22, I was calling 911. By 2:28, my neighbor was running over with a portable battery pack. By 2:41, paramedics were in Caleb's room, and by sunrise, the HOA president was telling people I had created an emotional scene over a generator storage issue. A generator storage issue. My son's ventilator battery had less than 8 minutes left when help arrived. Then, 2 days later, the HOA fined me $3,800 for unauthorized equipment, improper exterior installation, nuisance noise potential, and failure to comply with removal procedures. Failure to comply with the theft of my son's medical backup power. That was when fear turned into something harder, because the HOA had made one mistake they did not know about. My garage camera had caught everything. It caught the HOA maintenance chair at 11:36 p.m. It caught the contractor cutting the chain. It caught them loading the generator onto a utility trailer. And it caught the HOA president saying, "She keeps waving that medical letter around. Take it tonight while the outage gives us cover." 3 weeks later, the county emergency management officer would stand in a packed HOA meeting with my approval letter, the recorded reasonable accommodation request, electrician records, 911 logs, camera footage, text messages, medical documentation, and the HOA's own emails. The generator would be replaced. The board president would resign. The HOA would withdraw every fine. And their decision to remove a medically approved backup power system during a blackout would cost them $247,000 in emergency expenses, legal fees, insurance claims, county penalties, equipment damage, medical monitoring costs, and settlement payments. But that night, standing in the dark with my son's alarm screaming through the open window, all I knew was this. The HOA had taken the one machine I needed to keep my child safe and then called it compliance. I did not move into Redstone Villas because I loved HOAs. I moved there because the house worked for Caleb. Caleb was 16, funny, stubborn, too smart for his own good, and born with a neuromuscular condition that made breathing harder at night. Most days, if you saw him in the driveway washing my car for $5, he would absolutely demand in cash. You would never know how carefully our life was built around equipment. Night ventilator, backup battery, pulse oximeter, emergency suction, medication cooler, air conditioning, power, always power. When you live with medical equipment, electricity stops being a convenience. It becomes part of the care plan. It becomes something you think about when other people are thinking about dinner, laundry, gas prices, or weekend plans. We had lived in an older rental before Redstone Villas. The wiring was bad, the bedrooms were upstairs, and every summer storm made me feel like I was waiting for the house to betray us. After one outage lasted 4 hours, and Caleb's backup battery nearly drained, His pulmonologist wrote a letter recommending reliable backup power at home. That letter changed how I looked for houses. I needed one story: good wiring, a bedroom close to mine, space for medical equipment, a garage wall where an electrician could install a transfer switch, and a place where a small standby generator could sit safely outside without blocking access. Windows or neighbors, Redstone Villas seemed perfect. A quiet planned community outside Tucson, stucco houses, gravel landscaping, wide side yards, retirees with golf carts, families with bikes in the driveway. The HOA rules were annoying but predictable. Earth-tone paint, no visible trash cans, approved landscaping, no permanent exterior equipment without review. Before I bought the house, I asked about the generator, not casually in writing. My realtor sent the HOA management company, Caleb S. medical accommodation letter, the proposed generator location, the electrician S specifications, noise rating, enclosure plan, and county emergency preparedness registration form. I asked whether a medical backup generator would be allowed. The HOA president, Patricia Vale, replied personally. Her email said, "The board acknowledges the medical necessity documentation and approves the proposed backup generator installation at the rear garage location. Provided installation is completed by a licensed electrician and screened according to the attached plan. Approved, medical necessity, rear garage location, licensed electrician, screened." I saved that email in 3 places. I thought I was being careful. I did not yet understand that some people can sign an approval and later act like the paper is an inconvenience. For the first year, everything was fine. The generator only ran during monthly test cycles and 2 short outages. It was quieter than most lawn equipment. The electrician had installed it properly. The county emergency preparedness office added Caleb S. address to their list of medically vulnerable residents who relied on power-dependent equipment. Then Patricia lost control of a different argument. Several residents complained about portable generators during outages. Some people ran loud gas units too close to windows. Someone used one on a patio. Another left fuel cans in the sun. The HOA started drafting a generator policy. I did not object to safety rules. I objected when Patricia's committee tried to ban all generators visible from neighboring lots. I reminded them mine was not a recreational backup system. It was a medically approved accommodation. Patricia smiled at the meeting and said, "No one is trying to interfere with your son's care." That sentence should have scared me, because people often say that right before they interfere with exactly that. A month later, I received a warning notice claiming the generator screen was insufficient. I sent the approval letter and photos. Then another notice said the monthly test cycle might violate quiet enjoyment rules. I sent the noise rating and electrician documentation. Then another notice said exterior power equipment was under review. I sent Patricia her own approval email. She stopped replying. The week before the blackout, a heat warning was issued. The utility company sent alerts about grid strain. I checked the generator. I checked the transfer switch. I checked Caleb S batteries. I checked everything because that is what parents like me do. Caleb rolled his eyes and said, "Mom, you check that generator more than you check my grades." I told him the generator was more reliable. He laughed. I remember that laugh. I remember it. Because 3 nights later, the generator was gone. The outage started at 10:58 p.m. I know because my phone lit up with the utility alert. Equipment failure affecting your area. Estimated restoration unknown. The house went silent first, then hot. In Arizona, silence. During a summer outage has wait. The air conditioner stops. The ceiling fan's slow. The refrigerator hum disappears. The walls seem to hold heat instead of releasing it. I went into Caleb's room. His ventilator had switched to battery automatically. He was awake, annoyed, not scared yet. "Generator time?" he asked. "Generator time," I said. I walked to the garage panel to switch over. That was when I realized something was wrong. The transfer light was dark. No generator hum. No startup sound. Nothing. I thought maybe the unit had failed. Maybe the breaker tripped. Maybe I had missed something during the weekly check. I grabbed the flashlight and went outside. The concrete pad was empty. For a moment, my brain refused to understand what my eyes were seeing. The generator had been bolted down. Chained, wired, tagged, approved. It could not be gone, but it was. The transfer cable hung from the wall like a cut nerve. The red medical warning tag lay face down in the gravel. The chain had been cut cleanly. The rubber feet had left 4 dusty marks on the pad where the unit used to sit. Then I saw the notice plastic sleeve HOA letterhead taped to my back door. Unauthorized noise-producing equipment removed by order of the Architectural Compliance Committee. Owner responsible for retrieval fees, compliance costs, and any related enforcement expenses. I did not scream. Not then. I ran back inside. Caleb's battery showed 19 minutes, then 17, then 15. The air in his room felt hotter than the hallway because the equipment gave off heat even when the room was losing power. He looked at my face and knew. "Mom?" I said the generator would not start. I did not say it was gone. I called 911, then my neighbor Marisol, who had a portable battery station for camping. She answered on the first ring because half the neighborhood was awake in the outage. When I told her Caleb's battery was draining, she ran across the street in slippers, carrying that battery like it weighed nothing. We connected what we could. It bought time, not security. The paramedics arrived before the battery failed. They moved Caleb to a monitored setup, checked his oxygen levels, and prepared transport in case the outage lasted. He tried to joke with them, but his voice shook. At 4:30 a.m., the power returned. At 5:10, Caleb finally fell asleep. At 5:30, I opened my camera app. The footage started at 11:36 p.m. Patricia Velas' white SUV pulled into the rear maintenance lane behind my garage. A small utility trailer followed. The HOA maintenance chair, Doug Renner, got out with a contractor I did not recognize. They had battery-powered work lights clipped to the trailer and a cordless impact driver on the pad. The camera showed the contractor working in a pool of white light while the rest of the neighborhood stayed dark. Patricia stayed near the SUV, holding her phone. Doug walked straight to the generator. He did not inspect it. He did not knock. He did not call. He cut the chain. The contractor disconnected the exterior cable at the service box. Doug peeled off the red medical tag, looked at it, and laughed. Then Patricia said, "She keeps waving that medical letter around. Take it tonight while the outage gives us cover." The outage gives us cover. I watched that clip until my hands stopped shaking. Then I saved it. By sunrise, Patricia had already posted a statement in the neighborhood app. The board removed non-compliant equipment that had been the subject of repeated violations. Unfortunately, one resident created confusion during last night's outage by mischaracterizing a compliance action as a medical emergency. Mischaracterizing, my son had been 8 minutes from losing ventilator battery. 2 days later, the fine arrived. $3,800. Unauthorized exterior equipment. Failure to maintain approved screening. Potential nuisance noise. Failure to comply with removal procedure. Retrieval and storage fee. Storage fee. They had taken my son's medical generator during a blackout and charged me rent to get it back. That was when I called a lawyer. Her name was Lee Moreno. She handled disability accommodation, HOA disputes, and housing cases. I sent her everything. Patricia S. approval email, Caleb S. doctor letter, the electrician invoice, the county emergency registration, the generator specs, violation notices, the 911 logs, the paramedic report, the fine letter, Patricia S. neighborhood post, and the 11:36 p.m. footage. Lee called back after watching the video. She did not begin with legal theory. She began with silence. Then she said they removed medically necessary equipment during an active power outage. I said yes, she said, and they knew exactly what it was. I said yes, she said. Good. Then we are not asking nicely. Within hours, Leah sent preservation letters to the HOA, the management company, Patricia, Doug, the contractor, the HOA attorney, and the HOA's insurance carrier. She demanded all records related to my generator, medical accommodation request, approval letters, enforcement notices, board meetings, contractor instructions, removal authorization, storage location, communications during the outage, Patricia S. neighborhood post, and any records claiming the generator had become non-compliant after approval. She also demanded immediate return of the generator. The HOA responded through counsel. They said the equipment had been removed for compliance reasons and was being stored securely. Leah asked whether it had been damaged. No answer. She asked who disconnected the electrical system. No answer. She asked whether the contractor was licensed to disconnect medical backup power equipment. No answer. She asked whether the board reviewed the medical accommodation file before authorizing removal. No answer. Then she contacted the County Emergency Preparedness Office. That was when the case changed. Caleb's address was registered as a power-dependent medical equipment residence. The generator was listed as home backup support. The county file included Patricia's approval email because I had submitted it when we registered the equipment. The county emergency management officer, Thomas Reed, called me personally. He asked whether the generator had been removed voluntarily. I said no. He asked whether it was available during the outage. I said no. He asked whether emergency services responded. I said yes. He said he would open a review. Open a review. Those 3 words sounded small. They were not. The electrician came next. He inspected the pad, transfer switch, cut cable, and service box. His report stated that the generator had been disconnected improperly, the transfer cable had been damaged, and the system could not be safely reconnected without repair and inspection. They had not entered my home, but they had disconnected the exterior transfer cable and damaged the connection point enough that the electrician would not reconnect anything until the entire backup system was inspected. So even if the HOA returned the unit, I could not just plug it back in. They had taken a medical safety system and broken its reliability. The paramedic report documented ventilator battery depletion concern, heat-related risk, backup power unavailable, and caregiver distress. Caleb S., pulmonologist, wrote a letter explaining why backup power was medically necessary and why interruption created risk, especially during extreme heat. Marisol gave a statement too. She described running over with the battery pack, connecting emergency backup power, and hearing Caleb's ventilator alarm from the hallway. Then Leah got the HOA emails. 2 days before the outage, Doug wrote to Patricia, "We can remove the generator after 10 p.m. Thursday. Less chance of confrontation." Patricia replied, "Good. Outage warnings may make her claim urgency. Stick to compliance language." Outage warnings. They knew an outage was possible. Then the management company wrote, "Reminder. This file includes a medical accommodation approval. Recommend legal review before any removal." Patricia replied, "The board cannot let one owner use medical claims to ignore design standards." Medical claims. That was my son S. breathing. Then, at 11:08 p.m. the night of the outage, after power was already out, Doug texted Patricia, "Power is out now. Still proceeding?" Patricia answered, "Yes, better now. No one will hear the equipment anyway." Better now. That text made Leah's voice change. She said, "Now we have timing. Timing mattered because this was no longer an overzealous compliance mistake. It was deliberate removal during the exact emergency the generator existed to survive. The legal turn came from the thing Patricia hated most, paper. The HOA had approved the generator. Not casually, not verbally, not as a vague courtesy, in writing. The approval email acknowledged medical necessity, approved the rear garage location, required licensed installation, accepted screening, and created conditions I had followed. The management company had stored it in my owner file. The County Emergency Preparedness Office had a copy. The electrician's invoice showed compliance. The photos showed the screened installation exactly where approved. Leah explained the core issue simply. An HOA can enforce architectural rules, but it cannot approve a medical accommodation. Let a homeowner rely on it, then secretly remove the medically necessary equipment during a blackout because the board later dislikes how it looks. It cannot punish a disabled resident's household for needing backup power. It cannot ignore medical documentation because design standards feel more important. And it absolutely cannot seize equipment from private property damage the electrical connection, and call the resulting emergencies a compliance issue. The HOA tried to reframe everything. First, they said the generator was not running at the time of removal. Leah said the power was already out, and the generator was designed to run when needed. Then they said it was a noise concern. Leah said it was not making noise because they took it before it could start. Then they said it was improperly screened. Leah produced the approved screening plan. Then they said the medical accommodation had expired. Leah asked them to show the expiration clause. There was none. Then they said the board had authority to revisit approvals. Lee said, revisiting does not mean stealing in the middle of the night during a heat outage. The county emergency management officer scheduled a site inspection. Thomas Reed came with a fire department liaison, the electrician, Leah, and a representative from the management company who looked like he wanted to become invisible. Thomas reviewed the pad, the cut chain, the damaged cable, the medical tag, the camera footage, and the county registration file. Then he asked the management representative one question. Why was this removed during an outage? The representative said the board would need to answer. Patricia did not attend. Doug did. That was a mistake. Thomas asked Doug whether he saw the medical warning tag before removal. Doug said yes. Thomas asked what he did with it. Doug said. He placed it on the ground. Thomas asked, why? Doug said, the board had determined the equipment was non-compliant. Thomas looked at the approval letter, then at Doug, then back at the empty pad. He said, the board signed the compliance. That sentence felt like a door opening. The county issued a written finding that the generator had been registered as medical backup support, that the HOA had approved installation, that removal during a power outage created a risk to a medically vulnerable resident, and that the system needed immediate restoration by qualified professionals. Lee used that finding to update the demand. She demanded return or replacement of the generator, professional reinstallation, electrical repair, emergency battery rental, medical monitoring costs, legal fees, withdrawal of fines, retraction of Patricia S. post, accommodation policy changes, and damages for interference with medically necessary housing access. Then she added one more demand, Patricia S. resignation. I did not ask for that, Leah said. You may not need to, her emails will do it. The emergency HOA meeting was the most crowded meeting Redstone Villas had ever seen. People came because the power outage had scared everyone. They stayed because they wanted to know why the board had taken a medical generator. Patricia sat at the front table, stiff and pale, with the HOA attorney beside her. Doug sat 2 chairs away, staring at the floor. The management company sent a regional supervisor instead of the usual property manager. Thomas Reed from County Emergency Management stood at the podium with a folder. Lee sat beside me. Caleb did not come. He watched a movie at Marisol's house because I did not want him sitting in a room full of adults discussing his lungs like community business. Thomas began with the county registration. He explained that some residents rely on powered medical equipment and that backup power planning is not cosmetic. It is part of emergency preparedness, he said. Homeowners, associations, utilities, and emergency responders all benefit when medically necessary equipment is documented clearly. Then he held up Patricia's approval email. The room went quiet before he even read it. The board acknowledges the medical necessity documentation and approves the proposed backup generator installation at the rear garage location. Medical necessity, approves. Rear garage location. Then he read the county finding. Generator registered as medical backup support, removed during active power outage. Medical warning tag present. Electrical connection damaged. Emergency services contacted. Risk created by unavailability of approved backup power. Then Lee played the camera footage. Patricia Suv, Doug cutting the chain, the contractor disconnecting the cable, the red tag being peeled off, the trailer lights glowing against the dark wall. Patricia S. voice, she keeps waving that medical letter around. Take it tonight while the outage gives us cover. Someone in the back of the room said, oh my God. Then Leah played the text messages. Power is out now. Still proceeding? Yes, better now. That was the moment Patricia lost the room. Not when the generator disappeared, not when the fine arrived. When everyone heard her choose the outage, the HOA attorney tried to say the matter involved confidential resident information, Leah said. The board had already made it public when Patricia posted that I had mischaracterized a compliance action as a medical emergency. Then she showed the post. People read it in silence. Marisol stood up and said she heard the ventilator alarm from my hallway. The paramedic report was summarized. The electrician report was summarized. The county finding was read into the meeting record. Then the board went into executive session. They came back 20 minutes later with different faces. The fines were withdrawn. The retrieval and storage charges were withdrawn. The HOA agreed to replace the damaged generator system with an equivalent or better unit installed by my electrician at their expense. They agreed to pay for temporary battery backup, electrical repair, medical monitoring costs, attorney fees, and emergency expenses. They agreed to retract Patricia S. neighborhood post and issue a written correction stating the generator had been approved as a medical accommodation. Then Patricia resigned. She said she was stepping down for the good of the community. Nobody applauded. Doug was removed from the maintenance committee. The contractor who disconnected the unit without verifying authority lost future HOA work and was reported to the state licensing board for review. The management company admitted its recommendation for legal review had been ignored by the board. The insurance process took months. The final documented resolution reached $247,000. The biggest number was not the generator. It was the legal exposure created by removing approved medical equipment after written warnings. During a documented outage from a home registered with county emergency preparedness, the largest part was emergency medical response, equipment replacement, electrical repair, temporary backup power, medical monitoring, legal fees, county review, insurance administration, accommodation policy overhaul, and settlement damages tied to the intentional removal of medically necessary equipment during a blackout. The HOA also had to adopt a new medical accommodation policy. No board member, committee chair, contractor, or management employee could remove, disable, disconnect, relocate, fine, or interfere with approved medical equipment without legal review, owner notice, qualified professional assessment, and emergency safety clearance. Thomas Reed required the policy be distributed to every resident. Leah required the correction letter be sent, the same way Patricia S. post had been sent. Public lie, public correction. That was fair. Not enough, but fair. The new generator arrived 3 weeks later. Same location. Rear garage pad, better model. Quieter, larger battery integration. Red medical tag bolted to the enclosure this time, not dangling from a chain someone could toss into the gravel. My electrician installed it, while I watched like a person guarding a sleeping animal. When he finished, he ran the test cycle. The generator started with a low, steady hum. Caleb came outside wearing sunglasses and said, "Honestly, Mom, it sounds expensive," I said. "It is," he said. "Good, make them hear it." So I did not apologize for the test cycle, not to neighbors, not to the HOA, not to anyone. The first time the new generator ran during an actual outage, I stood in Caleb's doorway and listened. His ventilator did not scream. The room stayed cool. The backup system transferred properly. Caleb slept through the whole thing. I cried in the hallway where he could not see me. Not because I was weak, because for the first time since that night, the silence did not feel dangerous. Redstone Villas changed after Patricia resigned. Not completely. HOAs do not become kind because one president falls, but they became more careful. The new board stopped using the word compliance like a weapon. The management company required legal review for accommodation files. The county held a short emergency preparedness workshop in the clubhouse. More residents than expected attended. One man apologized to me afterward. He said he had believed Patricia's post at first. I told him I understood people often believe the first version if it comes with letterhead. That is why records matter. I kept a folder labeled Caleb Power. Inside were the doctor letter, the original HOA approval, the county registration, the camera still, the 911 log, the paramedic report, the electrician report, Patricia S. Post, the correction letter, the settlement agreement, and one printed screenshot from 11:36 p.m. Doug holding the cutters. Patricia, standing by the SUV, the red medical tag in the gravel. I kept it because I never wanted to forget how ordinary cruelty can look when it wears a badge that says committee. A notice, a fine, a removal order, a compliance letter, a quiet decision made after dark, and then a Child S machine starts screaming. So if your HO, landlord, condo board committee, neighbor, or property manager ever questions medically necessary equipment, backup power, ramps, access, oxygen delivery, generators, or anything tied to a disability accommodation, do not rely on verbal promises. Get the approval in writing. Keep the doctor letter, register with local emergency programs if available, save every email, photograph every label. Keep cameras where legal, and if they call your family as safety a violation, make them put that sentence on paper. If this story made you think of someone who needs to hear it, share it with them. Leave your thoughts in the comments, save the video, and subscribe for more stories about ordinary people who learned that compliance means nothing when it ignores the person it is hurting. Because I did not beat the HOA by screaming louder in the dark. I beat them with the approval letter they forgot they signed. And now every month, when that generator runs its test cycle behind my garage, I stand there and listen to the hum, not because I like the sound, because that sound means Caleb can sleep. That sound means the house is ready. And that sound means nobody in Redstone Villas will ever again mistake my son's lifeline for a landscaping violation.